at 7, call to order at 7:30 p.m. Members of the council, you have an agenda before you. Are any amendments required to that agenda? And do you have any conflicts of interest for any agenda items? This is, remember, just for the special legislative meeting, not for the work session.
No, nothing to add and no conflicts.
Okay. I was going to assume from silence that everybody else was the same way. So given that is the case, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Kellon. Is that correct?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any discussion by council of the agenda? Are there any public comments? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang does not appear to be here yet. Councilmember Mejia?
I'm here.
Aye.
Oh,
Councilmember Inyang's here.
Councilmember Inyang then. You didn't have a CM next to your name, so I didn't see you there. Was that an I?
That is an aye.
Very good. And Councilmember Kellon?
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Are there any public comments this evening? I don't see any hands being raised, nor microphones unmuted. So let's move on to the legislative action items. Item number 1, motion to authorize town manager to sign a task order contract with Mead and Hunt Inc. for an amount not to exceed $53,184 for town center trail and parking lot redesign. And this is closely related to legislative action item number 2. I'm going to ask staff to give us a briefing on these two before I call for a motion.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. First, it's good to be back. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce Rodney Tissue. Rodney is our special projects coordinator. He's very experienced. I've known Rodney since 2001. We worked together in Hagerstown. And now he works for Ivy, shepherding these very high-profile projects. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Director Lewis and to Mr. Tissue.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It is my pleasure to introduce Rodney Tissue. He has jump-started the Town Center project, specifically the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot redesign project and the Natole Lafayette redesign project. He will present the staff report this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's really a pleasure to be part of your town's government here, and I look forward to working with you. John and I had a great relationship for many years, and I'm sure that'll continue as we work on these projects. I have to tell you, I'm impressed with your town, and I'm impressed with your staff, and I'm excited to get started trying to move the ball down the road on these two projects. So as John said, my job is to kind of shepherd these projects along, just like I did in Hagerstown for 32 years. And tonight would be the first step for both of these. I'll be hiring the design consultant. So staff's requesting your approval of both of these motions. I'm sure if you didn't have a chance to read the motion, this essentially what it is that a Mead Hunt will be hired to initially do some observation, data collection, prepare a base drawing, and then we'd have our first public meeting. That would just be to gather concerns, hear what the public is saying about both of these projects. That would probably happen in December. Then we would develop some concept plans, work through some details, and start working towards a recommended plan and have another public meeting, probably around April, where the public could react to what we've come up with and offer their comments. From that, we'll get refined, and eventually, hopefully sometime next summer, we would be back to you with a final concept plan that you would approve, that hopefully the majority of the community supports. And it would be that concept plan that we would use then to solicit proposals for design of the construction documents for the actual projects. So the end result of this phase is a concept plan that hopefully the community can embrace. So the staff is recommending both of these motions to you all tonight, and be happy to try to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Tissue. Council members, do you have any questions in advance, or is someone ready to make a motion on legislative action item number 1? We'll take them each separately, of course.
We need a motion before discussion, right?
That would be ideal.
So moved.
So a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a task order contract with Mead and Hunt Inc. for an amount not to exceed $53,184 for Town Center Trail and Parking Lot redesign, CFP Project 23GG03. Is there a second to that motion?
Seconded.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. And
Go
now we
for
can
it.
go into discussion. Councilmember Smith, your hand popped up just as I was about to ask for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good to meet you, Mr. Tissue. If I would assume that you've been briefed that this is in Ward 1 already, so me and you are gonna get to be really good friends, and I'm gonna have lots of questions for you. And if you come with the recommendation of the town manager and the rest of staff, I'm sure you will always be 2 steps ahead of me on that. So good to meet you. I'm wondering, and this is a question kind of for both projects. I'm fully confident in staff's estimates on this, or the process by which we have obtained these estimates from Mead and Hunt or whatever one in the process. But it seems that, like, no matter how much good faith effort we put in the front end on that, there's always overages, and I get that's just how the business goes. So of course, prepared to meet those within budgetary guidelines when they come. I'm just wondering if there's any, if these figures are built, if there's any contingency built into here, or if all goes as planned, we won't have to be back and add some more money to this. I'm skeptical, but that'll be the case. And again, that's just how business goes sometimes. But yeah, I'm wondering if there's any contingency. Oh, never mind. I'm reading both include a 20% contingency in the document. So that answers my question. Sorry for wasting the last 45 seconds of everyone's time. That's all I have, Mr.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there additional council discussion on this motion? Awfully quiet. Councilmember Lingua, you're unmuted.
Boy, still trying to get the hand up and you're already calling. Thank you very much. Mr. Tissue, welcome. And thank you for taking on this task for this area, which has been a long time coming. This is a lot of money for just preliminary, just analysis, looking at the space to fill that obligation. Other costs are to come when it comes to construction and all, of course. The one question I had regarding the process which Mead and Hunt is going to be taking, have they outlined the scope and duration of the time that they'll be making observations on traffic flow in this area, both vehicular, pedestrian, and other forms of mobility in that area?
Right, they'll be doing all those things. If they get, assuming if it's approved tonight, we're hoping to give them the notice to proceed this month,
Okay.
And they would be gathering that information yet this month or early into November.
Okay. Did they talk about time frame of which they would be gathering all this information?
Like,
I mean,
days of
how
the
many times?
week
How many times are they
or
going to
over
be
what
out on the
period?
site? Yeah, I'm just wondering. It's that it's. I'm sure it's going to be more than sure it's going to be more than a dozen times that they're out there observing, or if they're using equipment to help with counts as to the different types of traffic coming through, where it's coming through, what time of day it's coming through. It's just that sometimes you can find that being on location and seeing things firsthand can help bring a greater understanding as to what are the the challenges and the opportunities with this area and the redesign.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think being there is essential. They've been there already to put their proposal together, but
Right.
they'll definitely be acquiring traffic counts and observations during the peak hours, both in the morning and the evening. And
Okay.
my experience is that modern data collection for these type of studies, they often use video.
Okay.
I don't know what extent and to where exactly they'll do that, but that seems to be the modern kind of way of collecting data that also allows you to pick up on some of the nuances of both projects.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments or on this motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Yang, go ahead.
just want to say, welcome to the community. I appreciate you taking this on. This has been a great red herring for years, long before I got here. And I think it's the literal downtown of our community. And hopefully between these two projects, getting this type of alignment will alleviate a lot of structural challenges that we have. And so looking forward to your experience that you've had doing similar type of work and working with all the different constituents that are, including CSX, that are sort of involved in this project. So I appreciate your leadership on this. And this is the vocal bunch normally. And so we'll definitely have our, we'll bring our opinions and make sure that, you know where we stand on all issues around this. So thank you and apologize in advance.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, we definitely want your feedback. Obviously, it's ultimately yours to approve what we come up with. But we've set this up to be pretty intensive with community input, and we really want to try to get. I know there's a lot of parties involved here, especially on the town center project. So we're going to try our best to get that feedback from people. I am concerned about CSX. My work experience with them has not been. They're difficult. We're
familiar.
They're slow to respond, but John seems to have some connections that I hopefully can move this down the road quickly.
Fingers crossed.
Any additional council questions or comments? Are there any public comments or questions? So I have just a few minor comments. Mr. Tissue, I also welcome you to our team, and we're glad to have you on board and helping out. John spoke very highly of you as a skilled person, and I appreciate having you here. I have one comment, which is clarifying a sentence in the staff memo, top of the second page, where it says the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project received $325,000 in ARPA funds, which are expected to also cover both phases of the project. And I just want to clarify for the record and in the minutes that that these funds were received under revenue replacement. And so the looming like a brick wall at the end of calendar 24 deadline for spending ARPA funds does not apply to these funds. Just wanted to make that abundantly clear. The other next comment is on the Mead and Hunt proposal under task 1. They state there that they will be conducting field observation during daylight visible AM and PM peak hours. And given both when daylight is is likely to be happening over the next few weeks. And when we have issues, it seems to me that it would be good to have some coverage outside of daylight hours, particularly the early evening. There's a lot of traffic through the town center, and it would be nice to know what's happening other than in daylight visible AM, PM peak hours. So would love to hear some discussion of that.
Well, the sooner we get them out there, the better, as far as visibility goes for daylight. It'll be the peak hours, so even now, the peak hours would probably be like what, 4 to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So they're required to do their counts and observations during that time, regardless of the conditions.
Okay,
In
well,
my opinion.
I would say that peak hours extend to around 7, and
Okay, good to know.
and of course, well, the farmers market is its own complication, but that will perhaps be changing in the future. So we'll see. The final comment, and this is really just a minor point under task 3. It says all base mapping will be performed in MicroStation and converted to PDF for viewing online or in person. And I would like to encourage us, if we can possibly make it possible that we receive that GIS data in a transportable format. I think the town is going to start collecting more GIS data, and it'd be nice to have data that we generate under contract come to us in a usable format, so that we don't have to regenerate it from PDFs time after time after time. And those are all of my comments and questions on that particular proposal. Is there any additional Councilmember Lingua? I see your microphone is open.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you bring up that point about, peak hours and active hours. And I know the last MARC train comes through shortly before 8 o'clock. And I've noticed the times I'm up there, and maybe it's just me. If anyone has seen otherwise, please do chime in. It's still fairly busy up to around that hour. There's a lot of just movement going on because you have folks going to and from restaurants. You have folks who are coming down or heading up to Riverdale Park Station. Is it something that we would ask if Mead and Hunt can do observations up until about that 8 p.m. time frame?
Yes, I think we need to definitely talk to them about that if that's it,
Yeah.
The
It's
time
a
frame that you
busy
feel is
time.
important.
Yeah, being that you have both directions of the bus route coming through there. That's a fairly frequently running bus route. Between that, when trains come through and how that affects traffic being held until the train can disembark and the gates go up. It gets very interesting when all that congestion commences to relieve and reestablish a pattern of traffic. Gets a little confusing at times, gets a little testy at times. So again, back to the point about seeing firsthand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. What time of the evening do you think this starts, the congestion? Is it 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
So like 4 to 8?
Yeah, easily. That's my impression. If anyone else has seen elsewise, please do chime in.
I would say it's Thursday a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
And is your observations that the evening's worse than the morning?
Oh, morning gets hectic. Actually, morning gets very hectic because really especially right around the what is it? 7:30 to like around 8 o'clock, we are now seeing substantial traffic backing up on the southbound lane of Lafayette.
Mhm.
The 60 from essentially where the parking lot is for the MARC train, the CSX parking lot, back up to I know I've seen as far as, you know, back up towards Tuckerman. And folks are just single filing trying to come down that way to either be able to go eastbound on Queensbury in order to kind of not have to deal with 410, or to go westbound on Queensbury as much as they can to get out to Route 1 and then head southbound. I know I've seen that. I think because some folks are trying to head down towards DeMath at the same time. So it
And
gets
then
to be a
if
lot.
there's a train coming.
Yeah,
The other
exactly.
side
There
from
you go.
east side on, or eastbound on Queensbury from the west side, it'll back up all the way across Route 1.
Mhm.
Good information. Thank you. I think
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, I think they're going to want to get familiar, and the real challenge they're going to be having is the fact that days are getting shorter. So it's good that they're doing it during the school year, because that's
Yes.
when you get a fair amount.
Yeah.
But as the mayor was saying, you know, I know they want to try and work in daylight hours, but they might be trying to extend that into you know, to the twilight hours as much as they can.
Got it.
So just for the record, Sarah Zolad in the chat asked about College Park Academy traffic. And that has an impact in town center also, I believe.
Yeah, that's a lot of what that Lafayette stuff is too.
Mhm. Town Manager Lustitian, go ahead.
Yes, just to kind of bring this, or I guess to synthesize this discussion. So we're hearing clearly from the council that you would like, and I think staff agree, to define peak hours more broadly. And that's something that I believe we can do within the language of the presented agreements. So Ivy and Rod, if you can just get back with me to Hunt on that. And the other thing that I think this discussion points out is that there's a lot of energy about this project, because it's been discussed for decades. And but I think that's positive, because there's general consensus that we need a solution. And both among the council and in the community, I think we're going to be hearing that there's this concern or that concern, but there's strong support for resolving this as best as possible. So I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Well said. Appreciate it. Okay, is there any other discussion, council or members of the public? Hearing none, I will move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Moving on the agenda. If I can find the agenda, where I am in it, there we are. We are on legislative action item number 2, and we need a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a task order contract with Mead and Hunt, Inc. for an amount not to exceed $56,100 for Natoli Place, Lafayette Avenue redesign, CIP project 24PW01. May I please have such a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe. So this is the same general overall area, and it's just the other side of the tracks for the most part. So is there specific discussion on this this section of the proposal by members of council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Okay, my assumption is that this is going to be being conducted in tandem with the other area just across the tracks, being that there's quite a symbiotic relationship between the two areas. Is that
I think
correct?
so.
Yes, the way I'm envisioning this, the public meetings will be maybe the same night, but maybe back to back. We'd focus on one subject and then focus on the other an hour later or something like that. But essentially, it's all the same area, so
Yeah.
they'll definitely be working together.
Yeah, I have a feeling, you can have those, separate discussions, but you're going to be finding a lot of, you're going to be finding that confluence there at the crossing.
Yeah.
Just really, you're going to see a lot of carryover between one meeting and another, where one's going to start earlier and the other one's going to continue on later. So
Yeah.
It
So
might
maybe
just be one conversation and halfway through we'll say, okay, now we're in the second meeting.
yeah, or try
Yeah.
to, keep the focus on one of the other, one side or the other, but there's going to be a lot of,
Overlap.
carryover. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
overlap.
Makes sense.
Considerable overlap.
Mhm.
So
Mr. Mayor, if I can just add some clarity of why this is split. We have different funding sources. And it keeps it cleaner instead of having one contract for the design of two intricately related projects. The trolley trail redesign is primarily funded through a state bond bill. There's separate reporting requirements in that. And we have now local dollars for the Natoli Lafayette place. And we don't have those same restrictions. So we're just trying to start off from the very beginning. We'll have separate contracts and we can track the funds separately.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Town Manager. So is there any council specific conversation on this motion different from the first members of council? Given that they are intricately tied together. Awfully quiet. Any public comments on this motion for the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project? Seeing none, I will do roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. That brings
Thank
us
you.
to legislative action item number 3, motion to authorize the town manager to sign a contract with American Design Associates through the MAPT Cooperative Purchasing Program for an amount not to exceed $31,059 for acquisition of the council dais. Municipal Center renovation CIP project 18GG01. May I please have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Inyang, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Can we have a presentation from staff on what we have before us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe Mr. Hayter is going to lead us through this. Newmont?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Staff would like to request approval for the town manager to sign a contract with American Design Associates for the purchase and installation of a custom council dice through the Mid-Atlantic Purchasing Team Cooperative Agreement. The total estimated cost is $31,000 if 9. Just to provide an overview, as a part of municipal center renovation, the town intends to replace the existing council dice with a custom design model. After soliciting proposals from three vendors. Staff selected American Design Associates for their expertise in custom design and installation, including the option to add bullet-resistant panel. Should the council decide to include bullet-resistant panel, the additional cost would be approximately $45,000, which can be budgeted in FY 2026, financial year 2026. Staff, as part of the procurement process, evaluated proposals. As I mentioned, American Design were selected due to the shorter lead time, which is 8 to 12 weeks compared to other vendors, which was 16 to 17 weeks. And also for their participation in the MAP Cooperative Purchasing Program, which provides cost and procurement advantages. Other vendors either lacked the necessary experience with the bullet resistance installation or were unable to meet the project's timeline. Recommendation: staff recommends the Mayor and Council authorize the town manager to proceed with the contract with American Design Associates for a total amount not to exceed $31,059. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hayter. Council, any questions for Mr. Hayter?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Yang.
what is the, I know we've discussed this a few different times. Is the overall town center reopening sort of contingent on this purchase? Is this holding it up?
John,
Director Lewis.
I'm sorry, I was distracted for a moment. What's the question?
The question is whether or not the acquisition of the dais is tied to the completion of the project, and where are we generally on the completion of the renovation project?
Well, if I can answer the latter part first. So most of the renovation work is complete. What's outstanding relates to the fire alarm equipment requirements we are told we have to meet. There's some, I think, a delivery date coming up in a week or so for certain materials that the contractor has been waiting on. But we think by the end of October, most of the work that's currently underway should be done. And we certainly hope that there's clarity around what's required in terms of fire alarm upgrades. What was the second part of your question, Mr. Manager?
As it relates to the dais, so we're saying the dais can be delivered in 8 to 10 weeks, or 8 to 12 weeks, something like that, and that ties in or dovetails with wrapping up AccuBuild's work.
Certainly, the extension of the dais has been completed. I expect the carpeting and painting to be completed in the council chambers over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So by the time the dais furniture is delivered, it can be immediately installed. There should not be any work underway that would preclude them moving ahead with that installation.
And just for clarity for the council and the public, there are a variety of smaller items that have come up through the administration of this renovation that we're going to close out AccuBuild. That's the general contractor. And then we will be contracting with a different firm to handle a few cleanup items that are outside of the scope, things that came up during the project, and it'd be more cost effective to not add those change orders to AccuBuild.
Does that answer your questions, Councilmember Yang?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lingua, I see your mic is live. Do you have a question?
Not per se. I mean, pretty much what the council member was asking was the gist of what I was trying to find out. So, no.
Okay, thank you. Any additional council questions or comments on this motion to sign a contract with American Design Associates? So I have a few questions about the design, and if we could go to, oh, let's go to page 5, the next to last rendering. One more page. Okay, so no, that's it. Sorry, that is the correct page. So the thing I'm very happy with the overall design of this. The placement of the chairs, all of that is very good. The thing that I have found historically is that the electrical feed throughs are sort of the most subject to change over time. So I'm hopeful that this dais is going to be in use for a couple of decades, maybe. And I'm willing to bet that the anodized option 187C in anodized aluminum, that those having specialized plugs in them, that those specialized plugs are going to be no longer useful in 5 to 10 years. And so what I would encourage us to do is to exercise more options 033A. So in between each set of councils, each pair of council seats, that there be one of the wire grommet and black plastic, and that would allow someone to plug in underneath the dais and plug in whatever device they need to on top, should it require electricity up there. And if we could now go back to the previous one just before, I would also recommend that each of the vertical support posts and the vertical support box that you can see in front of the central seat, that each of those should have power strip or sort of bristling with power strips, each one of them, and the two end pieces as well, just to allow lots of plugs. And I don't think this is going to change the price of this at all, but I think that there would be a more durable design, and would suggest that we move in that direction.
Newman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We'll definitely get in touch with the Meccan Design and try and incorporate those requests that you made.
And just so I'm clear, Newman, what we have in front of us are for sales purposes only. This isn't that they did the layout specifically for us on this.
Yes, this is for sale purposes, but yes, we can incorporate those changes.
Okay.
These are not, Mr. Mayor mentioned, not major changes that would affect
Okay.
the pricing.
Thank you.
It's pretty easy for them to drill the extra hole and put in the grommet, and that's the main.
Absolutely.
And just leaving space or having a couple of bolts in those vertical posts. It's all easy, and we just want to. I think it will be more likely to survive the ages with those changes. Okay, any additional council or public comments on this this motion to authorize town manager to sign a contract with American Design Associates? Seeing none, hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. That brings us to the long discussion, probably. Motion regarding written testimony from Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission annual budget forums on September 25 and October 4, 2024. And I would recommend that we actually discuss this before the motion, since there's perhaps a bit of rewriting from the dais, virtual dais, of the items that will go before the MNC PPC. So if we could have a staff presentation to just go over all the items that are possibly on the list.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. This item was discussed at the September 9th legislative meeting. This is an annual process that the council goes through to make recommendations to MNC PPC regarding their next year's budget. We started with a list of, I believe, 8 things that were on the list in previous years, and during the meeting on the 9th, we made some changes, and so those are underneath the list. So there were a couple of things that we wanted to do. I think we removed, the council removed item number 3, or discussed removing item number 3. Let me just pull my notes up real quick. We also discussed specifically improvements to the Northeast Branch Trail, specifically going towards our Purple Line neighborhoods, so paving and lighting. The council discussed more diverse amenities in town, so futsal, skateboarding, things of that nature. Again, item number 3 was to be removed from the list of previous items. Perhaps combining number 2 and number 7. So those were number 2 and number 7 were related to Riverside Neighborhood Park and just improvements to the ball fields and then basketball courts. And then we talked briefly about renaming the parks, which certainly would help when we're talking about all of the different parks, since their names are so very similar. Also, Gosling Pond, I think we discussed that, even though it may be a county amenity. And then one little item that we talked about was the kayak facilities. And then after the council meeting, Mayor Thompson had mentioned including the bridge over Wells Run, the redesign and engineering resources. So there's still a lot of items out there to kind of take shape for the written testimony. One of the hearings has been held already. The second hearing is coming up soon, but the record stays open until October the 16th. So the council does have some time to make some decisions and even perhaps review a draft letter, which we don't have tonight. We just simply have the comments that the council submitted last year.
Councilmember Lingua, I see your microphone is open. Do you want to comment on this?
A couple things. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Number 1 on the list, redesign and installation of restrooms at Riverside Neighborhood Park is currently underway. So we can probably remove that off the list, or somewhere acknowledge in the letter our appreciation that this is underway. And being that number 2 and number 7 are going together, we want to make sure then that number 7 is talking about Riverside Neighborhood Park, because right now it's the Riverdale Neighborhood Park, and they do have a ball field over there as well. So to be clear on that, it was said that we had talked about removing number 3. Are we essentially looking at taking that as a different approach for addressing issues with the park that maybe are not recreation related?
Can you repeat that statement?
Number 3, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about, taking number 3 off the list, which is, the installation of stormwater management infrastructure to accommodate surges of floodwater at Riverdale Neighborhood Park. I remember very well what that looked like, and feel it's a worthy ask, but my impression is that, we want to do this in a separate discussion, whereas what they're looking for here is just things to improve the recreation experience of folks who are coming to the park, and that's fine by me. Because I think also we could be wanting to approach them separately on a couple other items as well, as it addresses property nearby Riverside Neighborhood Park, as well as the small park behind it along Tanglewood Drive. That's their responsibility as well. those are I think the one other thing I would just add, when we're talking about the improvements, to the baseball field at Riverside Neighborhood Park, folks there would really appreciate if a half canopy could be installed on top of the current fencing around there, so as to contain foul balls that are going straight up or backwards, and that they're not going back over and going down into that flood ditch right there, as well as possibly extending the length of the fence along the first base side. They would appreciate that as well. The last thing I would have, are we also using it as a separate discussion about, being that it's been brought up separately, about their continuing their work on the landscaping there, in the sense of planting trees at the park to afford more shade in the coming years?
I think that would be a important thing for us to bring up. That's not doesn't appear in the current list.
Okay. Those are
So
those
just to
I have.
clarify, if I may,
Yeah,
Councilmember.
go ahead.
So the item 3 was identified for removal, and item 4 is similarly a floodwater related item. So
Okay.
is it the council's preference to remove those and discuss those separately? Is that my understanding?
Well, it's my sense that really what, county is looking for here is, from going to these over the years, is they're looking in for recommendations for improvements for activities, and for, park, the park usage, and the experience, at using the park. Granted, yes, making sure that it's not sitting 6 to 8 inches underwater is important. But I think that is touching, it's really dealing with an issue that wouldn't really fall here, and that it's just more like a fundamental.
No, I understand. I understand the
Yeah.
issue, and that's why I brought up item 4 as
Yeah.
well.
So I think, we could do that. We could pull those off to the side and consider, as once this letter is drafted, approved, and then presented, is being ready not too long after to engage park and planning on these other topics as well.
Okay. There's a a meeting on Wednesday night, which I was planning to attend and to speak at. I have 3 minutes, and
Okay.
I probably don't have enough time to get through all of these items. So the main thing I'm going to say is that we have a letter in preparation, and it will be filed. And I was going to sort of touch on a high level on the various things that we're talking about. And so I'm hearing sort of recreational upgrades of volleyball courts, basketball courts, baseball fields, and then the Riversdale supporting items. And then there's the one item that came up on the walk and talk that we had. I don't remember when that was, a few weeks ago. And
Okay.
that is that we have sort of in process the upgrade of the Riverdale Road Bridge over the Anacostia, and right next to it is this pedestrian bicycle trail bridge over Wells Run. And it would just be good, since we have sort of a multi-year bridge project coming up, to get them to start devoting some engineering resources to looking at that. And so that was going to be that was my suggestion that came out of that walk and talk.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that. Yeah, I think that's worthwhile. It's a highly used, way for cyclists, runners, walkers, a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, and the slope between Wells Run and the street there is at least makes me want to get off my bike and walk it up because it's pretty steep. So
Yeah.
seems like there's going to be a significant engineering investment required or investment to upgrade that, and so it would be good. Whoever's controlling the screen, can you scroll down a little bit? Oh, the purple line neighborhoods. Oh, the one item which I think you might have discussed when I wasn't at the meeting at the end of August, is the kayak facilities. What are the kayaking facilities that were discussed? Can someone let me know?
Gosh, I do not recall us talking about kayaking facilities.
I do believe, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think it had to do with the how long they were open in the certain times in the season. It was
Oh, that's just a personal for me.
Yes.
That's not a town
Oh, okay.
town position.
Okay.
Thank you for that
Isn't that-
clarification. No, I
Yeah.
have asked personally that they keep the kayaking launches open more, but that's just me.
Oh, okay.
To that point, Mr. Mayor, I think we determined in that conversation that Gosling Pond is county owned, not park and planning. So as much as I have very strong opinions about the changes to Gosling Pond over the last 3 years or so, not sure would be useful.
To
for
bring
this.
it up with them
Correct.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Uh,
So, staff, do you believe that we can have a draft letter by next week?
certainly.
Okay. And as I said, I will testify and basically just warn them what's coming and the general topics that are going to be discussed in there at the public hearing on Wednesday night.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just one more question. Obviously not looking for an exact statistic here, but in a general sense, what has been our record of success on the things we bring to these public meetings to request funding for and actually getting that funding?
So it's a little bit hard to say because typically, again, if you scroll up, we have order of a dozen items on the list. And I would say that a few of them each year get addressed, and sometimes it takes a few years for them to happen. So we've been requesting the restroom improvements at Riverside Neighborhood Park for, I don't know, 5 years, 4 years. And it's come up, but these are our capital budgets and it takes time to do those things. So I would count that as a success.
Oh yeah, a few every few years was definitely more than I was expecting you to say. So
Yeah, but that's would be sort of my overall statement is that that's how it works out.
sure. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
For the Purple Line Northeast Branch Trail, the new one we added, I'm not sure how you want to address in terms of your testimony or the letter, but I've been told multiple times that the funding is already in place, and so this might be an ask of not necessarily new funding, but moving it up the list or getting it actually put on a schedule. But obviously, don't need to reiterate to you the importance of how this community has pretty much been cut off almost
Oh, I know.
entirely. So just want to make sure that's top of mind.
Definitely will. I will touch on it and let them know that it is that we believe there may be funding for it, but that we would like it to be completed as quickly as possible. So I'll be happy to bring that up. You can attend also if you wish and speak to it directly.
yeah, exactly.
Some other municipalities
far.
have like chains of people all lined up from their council and mayor. Just
That they do.
hand it off from person to person. Okay, so I don't think we need a motion, and action this evening. I think we have given direction to staff for what we'd like to see in the letter, and we can hopefully see a draft next week. And I have some guidance for what I should say Wednesday evening. So thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay, moving on the agenda, are there any items of new business? Awfully quiet.
none.
Are there any items of unfinished business? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith. I didn't see who got the second. Yang?
Councilmember Foe, I believe.
Myself, yeah.
Oh, okay, very good.
The birthday boy.
This is this is neither debated nor discussed, so I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Calon,
Aye.
and I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned at 8:26 p.m. and we'll move immediately into the work session. Which I'll go ahead and formally call to order at 8:26. Work session is a much more informal meeting, and so we don't need to have motions and approvals and so on. We just are here to discuss and determine what appears on the agenda and try to hash out some issues. So are there any issues with the agenda or any items that need to be changed? Doesn't look like there are, so let's move along. The mayor's report, I'm going to hold my report until the meeting next week. And so there's no report. Mr. Town Manager?
I have a few things for this evening. So briefly, the town held the Screen on the Green at the Riversdale House Museum this past weekend, and it was a huge success. The sale of town property that we previously had on the agendas, the town attorney is working on that. That's the town property, Lafayette and Nicholson. And so we'll be bringing that back once the town attorney has worked through some legal language. Just to update the council, the request for proposals is on the street, if you will, for the council chamber video production system. And we had 9 companies attend the pre-bid meeting. So we're excited about that. This is the second time we've put this out. The first time we did not have this type of success. So we're hopeful with this solicitation. Good to note that the October 19th walk and talk has been canceled. So Saturday, October 19th, we had scheduled a town walk and talk. That has been canceled because the Purple Line Coalition is having a community led walk also on the morning of October 19th. And you all should have received emails about that walk. And in support of the Purple Line, we canceled the town's walk. The town will be partnering with the county police on the Trunk or Treat event that will be held October 25th from 6:30 to 8:30 in Riverdale Plaza. And then just briefly some updates on some projects. As the mayor mentioned in your last discussion on the MNC PPC things, projects can take time. But we're seeing some progress. If you have not been by 54th Place, much of the play equipment is now installed. The speed or the raised crosswalk is installed, sidewalks installed. The perimeter fencing is something that's going to slow us down a little bit. It's ordered, but that's probably out 6 or so weeks before we'll have the perimeter fencing. So we won't be able to open the park until the perimeter fencing is in place. The demolition of the residential structures at 5000 and 5002 Queensberry. It was delayed. It was supposed to happen last Saturday. It's been delayed. The pre-construction meeting is to take place this Thursday. If everything goes well at that meeting, then we anticipate the demolition very well could be this coming weekend. If not, we'd be another weekend out or so. But we're moving along. And that's all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Moving on the agenda, council, committee, and ward reports, starting with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to start by wishing a belated birthday to my colleague from Ward 2. In a time when there are fewer and fewer remaining folks from our greatest generation, it's good to have the longevity of a hero from the Battle of the Bulge like yourself. So congratulations on making it another year on this side of the dirt, and happy 95th birthday. I did come here tonight, other than for the comedy routine. I had planned on giving some praise, which I often do not have, for park and planning, for helping us untangle an issue, an error from permitting. I don't want to get into details because I don't want to say the wrong thing and throw somebody on the bus, but to remain positive, while park and planning, there are some more issues now that I thought we had resolved. I do want to say thank you to our MUTC coordinator, Mr. Daniel Sams, who was able to help us throw together or advance a meeting that was not supposed to happen for a number of days, to correct an error out of DPI. For one of our local businesses. So just to put that in the record, to thank Mr. Sams. I'm sure most folks, if you are signed up for mail-in ballots, have received your mail-in ballot by now. I got mine. I voted this morning. Here's my ballot. I filled it out in about 10 minutes. You can do the same. I would have mailed it today, but then I wouldn't have a prop for tonight. So this will go in the mail tomorrow morning. Highly encourage mail-in voting. It's safe, it's secure, your vote will be counted. You get emails from the Board of Elections all along the way that your ballot's been received, that it's been counted, all of that stuff. It's a busy, we're all busy folks, and it's a busy time of year. So it's really easy to forget that it's time to vote. You get to that day, to election day, and you knew it was important, but you didn't mail in your ballot, but you can, maybe go to the polling place, but then you have to stay late at work and then the line's long. But it's, first week of October, you can get it done, put it in the mail, and have confidence that your ballot will be counted. So firstly, highly encourage everyone to participate in our democratic process and generally just to vote. And then secondly, encourage folks, it's extremely convenient to use mail-in voting, and encourage everybody to do that. That is all the remarks I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the birthday compliments, council member. I will withhold my comments until next week. I do want to say on the record, however, though, welcome back to our town manager, Mr. John Lestitian. It is great.
Here.
It is great to have you back. I know that the council, the town of Riverdale Park, and town staff are all grateful to have you here and present and on the mend, sir. So it's great to see you. And that's it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can
Mr.
just.
Town Manager, go ahead.
Well, council member, thank you for your kind words. I greatly appreciate that. And I want to thank the council for your understanding and your support during that time. And I also want to thank Director Barnes for stepping up and for handling a lot of my duties during that time. Actually, all of my duties for at least 2 weeks. And then I was perhaps calling her too often. I did watch the meeting, the last meeting on Facebook, and trying to stay on top of things a little bit. But and I want to thank the staff leadership team as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilmember Lingua, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Brevity being the soul of wit, I will try to achieve that. I'll try to achieve both. My council member from the second ward, my colleague from the second ward, I didn't have you a day over 39. My colleague from the first ward, my question would be, are you here all week, and what item does the kitchen have you pushing for folks to try on the menu? Other items that other items I could bring up at this point, I will hold till next week's legislative session.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Inyang, Ward 4.
Good evening. I'll withhold my presentation. I know we're going to talk a little bit about some community event stuff later on, and so I'm happy to share more, but excited about a potential event coming to Ward 4 shortly.
Quite the teaser there, but we know about it. So, okay, thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Councilmember Mejia, Ward 5.
Good evening, council members. I have no report for this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Calon, Ward 6.
Good evening, everybody. I hope both our mayor and town manager have returned safely. Now, I need the chief of the police to try to help me in my constituencies, like the BP gas station and the McDonald's. Every morning we have problem over there. The BP gas station, in fact, the guys, those who are working there, they are very mad because the people are coming there, they're so drunk. They go, sometimes they lie down before the customers where they coming to pay for their gas or going inside. They're sitting down there, they're drunk. Even when they tell them to move, they can't move. At the back of the gas station, the building, they pee there, they do everything, mess up everything. Likewise, the liquor store too. Then the McDonald's, every morning, there's some guys are coming there, they are very rude. They don't respect nobody. They're making noise inside there. Let me say, 2 weeks ago, the police officers for Riverdale Park, some of them came over there. I was happy when they get rid of our 2 guys who are making noise in that place, rude to the workers in the McDonald's. So please, if the chief can give his own authority to his men, to every morning they visit the McDonald's, and in the afternoon or whatever, they go to the BP gas station and the liquor store to get rid of these guys. They're tormenting the customers and the client too. Like when you come in to buy the gas, they come to you, hey, can I have money? Hey, give me money, it's in your pocket. I can't do that. So please, we need that help in that area. Thank you very much. This is my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Calon. Just as a reminder, We on the council aren't allowed to give direction to town staff, except we can ask the town manager to do things. And so just as a reminder in the future to inform the town manager of these issues, and that he will see to it that appropriate resources are applied. That brings us to the end of council, committee, and ward reports and to public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Doesn't look like it, so let's go ahead and move to work session discussion items. Item number 1, undesignated social concerns line item, a request for funding from Global Health and Education Projects, Inc. Can we have a staff briefing on this item, please?
Yes, so I'll try, and then I'm going to ask Jessica or Director Barnes to weigh in a little bit. So there was an email that came in. I'm not sure if everyone on the council had received the email. I believe you did, Mayor, as well as at least one other council member. And this is a request in reference to funding a diaper distribution. I see that the representative from Global Health and Education Projects is on the meeting here. They have worked with the town before, and the mayor and council does have funding available should you desire to make a donation.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Mr. Azuine, do you wish to discuss your plans and your target of this spending should you receive the funding?
Yes, Mayor Thompson, thank you so much, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to join this meeting. I have learned a lot this evening. My name is Romy Azuine. I live in the town. I have been living in the town since 2004. My kids are in this town. They were all born here, and they attend the county schools. First, I want to begin by thanking the mayor and the council members for the funding that we received in fiscal year 23. We received an amount, a little short, $26,000 that we used to provide the first ever baby diaper distribution for residents of our town. It was so successful that, in fact, one of the testimonials we got from that program was a lady that said she had to move from Bladensburg to town of Riverdale Park because she understood that the town had a lot of opportunities to support young families. That program was so successful that we are now in the period of, trying to manage the success. Our office is behind the Riverdale Town Mark train station, and we are now beginning to see a lot of town residents, families coming to us asking for diapers. And it is actually very heartbreaking to send them away to say that the grant that funded that project had finished. Right now, I checked our database last night. We have more than 130 households that have actually signed up on our waiting list. And the little resources we have as a small nonprofit, we have used that, we have expended that, and we are doing a number of donations, and those donations are trickling in, that they are actually not addressing the need. Scratching my head, I didn't know what to do. I started emailing the mayor, I emailed my own council member, and then I reached out to Director Barnes to say, look, this is the situation I find myself. We have done so well, and then, I'm looking for some support just to continue this program so that we can continue to give hope to the families that call our town home. They love this town. They love this program, and it's really amazing having these families receive these diapers or baby food or other support and go home and say that we live in the town of Riverdale Park. That's why we got this support. So I don't know how much to ask. The most important thing for me is for you to see me, for me to share my gratitude for all the team for the work that you have done. The amount has done more than the amount, and I just wanted to make sure that I send that message clearly to you, Mayor Thompson, as well as all the council members, and just say anything is better than something is better than anything, and that's what we're saying. So our goal will be to use the funding that we get from you to buy diapers. We have a system that helps us sign up. Working with Director Barnes, we have the map of the town so that we are actually able to limit beneficiaries to those who live within our town. We have the marketing and outreach mechanism. Thanks again to Director Barnes. All the multi-homes, we have established relationship with them, and we send out flyers and we have the sign up. So we are ready. We provide the diapers, we provide toiletries. We also provide things like what moms can use to express breast milk and serve them for when they go to work. So I just wanted to keep it brief. First of all, again, to send a debt of gratitude to the mayor and the town for this incredible support, but also coming again like Oliver Twist, asking for a little bit more to continue to support our families. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming here. The council looks like we have some questions and comments. So Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to meet you, sir. Is it Azuini? Am I saying that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Boom, first try. Happy to support this program. I do. I understand the and respect the any amount is helpful. But being good stewards of the and let me just say any amount that we have that we're able to put this program and help our communities, I think is a worthy amount. But we of course need to be able to explain how we spent the money to our the residents of the town. So in between now and maybe the next meeting where we would actually potentially vote on this, I would love to see something like, what would be needed to meet your need for, say, a month. Not that, we would only fund for a month, but to give us an idea of what to project out. But whatever the council, determines that we can afford out of the undesignated social concerns line item to devote to this program, I think it's absolutely a worthy project, and something that we could continue to fund. I'd just like to be able to see, to be able to put some projections on what that grant funding enables your really great organization to do.
Thank you, sir. We have a budgeting system. We can work with Director Barnes to put together a proposed budget, itemizing how we plan to spend it. And we also have a financial management system, for this project, because we, the individuals we are serving are our neighbors. We have the lowest ever indirect costs. We're almost doing this for volunteer because these are neighbors. We know them, they know us.
Sure.
So putting together a budget would be prudent, and we'll work with Director Barnes to get that budget.
Yeah, and I just want to, just reinforce, like, that is not a comment on, the propriety here. I'm sure every cent that we give you guys is going to people to buy things for people who need it. But when, one of our residents who are certainly entitled to do so and should do so comes and says, how are we able to help our community with this money? We need to be able to answer that. So I look forward to seeing those projections and supporting whatever we determine is a good amount to support this program, because I think it's really great and we should be doing more things like this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the letter and the email, and was looking forward to this conversation. I'd say one, on behalf of, I'm sure, everyone who has received something, you've done a great service to our community and helping helping some of the most vulnerable within our community. To the question, I think to the point that, you know, my colleague from Ward 1 mentioned, I'm curious, you mentioned how the funds from FY23 ran out. Do you have a sense of when that happened, in terms of just like the, you know, the 23 or 20 so $1,000 lasted for, you know, however long? And do you foresee that demand being sort of like a one-off where it was a new program and so there was a high spike, or was it like a consistent, you know, level of demand over time? So those are my two questions.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Inyang. That's a good question. The funding we got for FY23 was from ARPA funding, and that fund had a beginning and an end, just like most grant programs did. With that funding, we were able to serve about 400 households, you know, 400 children. We were able to serve the head count, if I remember correctly, was 327. And then we distributed more than 22,000 pieces of infant diapers. And then for wipes, we distributed more than 36,000. And then we also gave out, you know, nearly 4,000 rolls of tissue for these families. So it wasn't like there was a spike. We see a steady state in the families in our town. It's just that grant ended, and you know, we found ourselves in this situation where families were coming knocking, you know, knocking on the door, requesting that we started exploring what our options were, and then decided to come to the town, to the mayor and council to, you know, present a request.
Thank you. And then just last question. How long has it been since the funds have sort of run out until from that time till today?
The final report, the project ended in December 23. If I remember, our final report, we presented it January 19th, 2024. So since January up till now, we haven't really served specifically. You know, the funding that we have is for everyone, and therefore we just give as we're able to. But we are seeing an increasing number of families from our town coming up, and the beauty of the town grant program was it gave us the opportunity to limit it to members of the town, and they were able to get more to last them for several weeks before they come back again. So now we're only able to give them a little bit, and then it could last for just 1 week, and they come back and there wouldn't be any again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question, sir. Do you work in conjunction with other programs or other nonprofits doing this in Riverdale Park? So is there coordination among other nonprofits that are distributing diapers?
There is. I serve as the co-chair for the Greater Riverdale Thrives Coalition for Health and Wellness. So Pastor Mike is known to me. You know, we work together. Apart from CCAR, they know that we run this program and they refer families to us. We have also partnered with the elementary school, where we get a lot of referrals from those families. And like I mentioned earlier on, one of the directives actually that was really a support that we got from Director Barnes was to outreach to the multi-family homes, you know, the apartments that we have, and we have established relationships. We go in with our flyers, they know us. They say, yeah, you come on, you present the flyers. So those partnerships, you know, but some of them loosely, some of them strictly, have really resulted in an awareness of this program within the town. And so our problem is not we don't have people to sign up. We have people signed up waiting. We just don't have the resources to serve them. And we'll continue to partner with the school, we'll continue to partner with the farmers market. Actually, I work with him. He knows that our diapers are no longer available. And he was asking me, how can we help? You know, is there any other thing we can help? All the partnerships are there, you know, at the coalition level, at the county level, with the school system, with other organizations that also distribute diapers. But I think the focus here is that we are town-based. We already have the track record. We already have a system of individuals that have benefited from this program for us. We just need to reactivate and inform them that we have diapers in stock.
If I could ask one follow-up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Are you also working with the Greater DC Diaper Bank that's headquartered out of Silver Spring and works in the area?
So the DC Diaper Bank has an important program where they accredit organizations to serve as their outposts. In FY23, we did the application. In fact, they told us, they said that they think that we are more advanced than just to be a diaper pantry, that we should go ahead and apply to become our own diaper bank. We haven't done that yet, you know, because we also have some self-doubt, right? We just want to make sure that we are taking on something that we can execute on. So hopefully, you know, in the next few months, we'll reconsider that. And DC Diaper Bank had actually told us that they will be happy to mentor us to become a diaper bank for Prince George's County.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Kellogg, your microphone is open. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, I just want to say I received his email, and I don't know, we're gonna, whatever conclusion will come, which you're gonna know. That's all I'm gonna tell you, okay? I received your email. I received your email. All right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
all
sir.
Right. All right, bye.
Okay, so let's discuss over the next week the amount and figure that out for next Monday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thanks also to town manager as well as Director Vance. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for coming this evening and for reaching out. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to work session discussion item number 2, recommended changes to the town election timeline. Is there a staff presentation on this?
Certainly. Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. This is a follow-up discussion to the discussion that was held on February the 26th at the February 26th work session. At that time, the mayor and council were generally supportive of the concept of making some adjustments to the town election timeline. Since that time, the Board of Elections has met, held a community meeting, gotten some feedback from the community on the proposed changes to the town election timeline, and have also worked with the town attorney to draft some potential language for those changes. So 3 of the main points that we'd like to cover. I do have 2 members of the board of elections who'd also like to speak, but just a brief overview of the 3 changes. One would include an adjustment in the timeline. So in February, the mayor and council typically adopt an ordinance that provides for the election. This change would have the ordinance adopted or introduced in January to provide for the election. So there's a 30-day difference there. There is a proposed 40-day adjustment to the candidate filing deadline. So currently the town has a 25-day filing deadline. So 25 days before the town election, candidates have to file. This change would make that 65 days. The other notable change included in the language that was reviewed by Town Attorney Sussman was language that allowed for early voting. So you'll see in some of the notes, the question that staff had to the town attorney was, does this need to be codified? The answer is yes, but that allowance for early voting makes some adjustments in the deadlines in the town election schedule. So you'll see those sections of code and of the charter that need to be updated to reflect early voting. The only other item that was included that is not on this list was some discussion about the timing of the the appointment of election judges. And there were so many references in the code to February. February was the month for everything. So instead of making an adjustment that would decrease the council's ability to be flexible with the appointment of election judges, we just took out the reference to February. So, and typically in the past, the mayor and council would adopt a resolution that appointed election judges. We usually had a lot of blank spaces, and then we would repeal and replace it several times until we got a full slate of election judges. So this will give the mayor and council some flexibility. The main purpose of all of these changes was simply to provide additional time for the Board of Election to complete their tasks. That was the main goal. And so with that said, I'd like to pass the microphone off to either Kate Kelly or Sarah Zolad, because I know they have some comments they'd like to share.
This is Sarah. I can talk or speak. I wanted to let you know that this is, we did some research on comparing our, the length of time that we have between when candidate packets are released and when they need to be turned in and election day. I don't know if we have, do we have that, that chart, Jessica?
We do. If we could just scroll down to the second page or the bottom of this page here.
There you go. So currently we have 25 days, which is very, very at the lowest end. And we wanted to bring it more in line with our neighbors and have it be a total of 65 days. And there are multiple reasons for this. One, we are volunteers, and this is a lot. And in 25 days, there's a lot of work to be done, and it is pretty exhausting. And it is it's hard to keep people involved when there's that level of work in such a short period of time. When the time was decided, it was back when we had a box and people wrote on their paper that they wanted, who they wanted to vote for. It's much more sophisticated now. There's a lot of other parties that we need to work with as far as printing ballots and getting equipment so we can do the scans and things like that. And so that the time it allows us to be more professional and make sure that everything is exactly right and everybody's name is spelled correctly, things like that. The other thing is that we are really, as was said in the earlier meeting, when a council member, I think it was from Ward 1, was talking about elections and the mail-in ballots. We are really trying to encourage people to do mail-in ballots for our local elections, especially since we have people who are traveling or maybe overseas. We want to include them in the process. And the current timeline does not allow for that. The turnaround for mail-in ballots is less than a week at this point, and the mail is less regular than it used to be. And it's just getting harder to do our jobs. Everybody, you turn on the news, you will find out that Board of Elections everywhere are getting, their jobs are getting harder. And we need a little bit more time to make sure that we do things right, because the landscape is constantly changing. And you'd think in a blue state that we're in a blue county, in a blue town, that it would be easier. It is easier, but it is not easy. There was just a legislation that came down, not legislation, a ruling that changed the amount of advice and help that we can get from a nonprofit. Luckily, we don't depend on them, but a lot of our neighbors do. And they're scrambling now to figure out how to do their elections this fall. And I don't want to be in that situation. So that's why we're asking for the extra time. I think that covers everything that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you. Looks like we have a council question. Go ahead, Councilmember Foe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Kate. You continue to generously offer your time to the town, and we sincerely appreciate it. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the response to time restrictions, to I get excited about making voting easier, making an event out of it, having pre-voting where we're celebrating the act. And I believe that we have a chance to encourage more candidates to run with extended times. Like, these are things that benefit the democracy as a whole. Honestly, if you guys think that this will make your job easier, I think it will. I'm 100% behind it. And I think we should always look to be creative, to expand the way we vote, the way we accept votes, and the way we celebrate the act. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Callan, go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm in doubt here, what is the real voting, the real month that the voting is going to take place?
I don't, can you repeat the question? I didn't understand it.
Yeah, what is the timeline of the voting, the month of the year?
So it's the first Monday in May is when, on odd number years, is when the election occurs.
Okay, these 65 days, what does that mean?
So that's roughly, I mean, that's April and March, and so it's like at the beginning of March. It would be at the beginning of March that the paperwork would be due.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep. So we just are requesting that the candidates who are going to run give us more time to process their applications and gather them together so that we can make sure that that everything is, and that we can work with our vendors to make sure that everything is, that we have a good timeline, and then so that we can mail out the mail-in ballots and give our voters plenty of time to mail them back.
Okay. All right, thank you. But okay, I'm sorry, but I think something. You see, you can have a lot of people. They register with you, they give you their particulars and everything, but they don't come to vote. Why?
That's a very good question. That's one of the things that we hope to be able to address with this extended timeline, that we can go out and do more outreach into communities, and that the people running for your positions you guys can go out and reach out to your constituents and say, hey, come and vote, or do a mail-in ballot. And this gives you guys more time to, and us more time to reach out to potential voters and to get them to vote. It is a very interesting question why more people don't vote. I guess they don't see the purpose, and that's one of the things that we're also going to be working on, is trying to help the people in this town understand what they're voting for and why it's important.
Yeah, but if they refuse to come and vote, but they have already registered their names and their place of residence with you, then they refuse to come and vote. Is it an offense or not? Or does that can qualify a candidate or not?
It doesn't have any effect on the candidate. The only thing that counts when for a candidate getting elected or not is whether they actually have people who do vote for them and they get the most number of votes. It doesn't matter how many people are registered who in the town or in their area who don't vote. That doesn't matter at all.
Okay, but when they register, it's okay.
Yep. As long as they register, they can vote. If they don't choose to vote, it doesn't have any impact other than that's one less person voting for them, but there's no negative impact.
Okay, all right, thank you for this declaration.
Are there additional council comments or questions on this proposal?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Lingua, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Zola and Ms. Kelly, as you very well know, we have for some members of the community, we have limited suffrage in the sense that they are allowed to register and to vote, yet they're not able to run for office. And I believe under that legislation that anyone who is a resident of the town 45 days prior to the election would be eligible to register and to vote. Does the suggestions you're making here in terms of the timeline, does that still work well with that timeline that we currently have on the books for that registration?
You can register to vote up to on the day of voting, so it's not going to impact registration. The 45 days is the eligibility, so I'm not sure how it would impact anything. I can't imagine that a whole bunch of people would, move up and move to Riverdale Park so they can vote. I'm not quite sure what your concern is.
Just there's a contingency just to be able to verify.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's a problem. It's harder to the most difficult or the most stressful voting verification is the day of, because you're doing it under a timeline and there's a line of people waiting to vote, and you need to review documents at that point. But we are getting better at it every year, and we are also getting repeat people who are on our supplemental stuff. If people are just registering to vote in Riverdale Park, they would initially end up just on our supplemental rolls. And then it would take a while for it to go up to the state and federal level if they are eligible for those things. But Jessica and the board have a routine to review materials.
Okay.
And if I may add, Mr. Councilman, the registration process for the supplemental voter registry rests currently with the town clerk. And that process is relatively quick because we have a very responsive Board of Elections. So when somebody pre-registers for the supplemental voter registry, that process would be that we collect the information and all of the documentation, and then we confirm with the Board of Elections that they're not registered somewhere else. And unlike my colleagues in other areas of the state, we have a great relationship with the Prince George's County Board of Elections, and they're pretty responsive. So I think what Sarah was saying is completely correct when it comes to pre-registration for the supplemental voter registry.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional council questions or comments? Are there any public questions or comments on this legislation and discussion? Okay, I have sort of one question, and I just thought of it when I saw the the adjustment as being a 40-day adjustment, and because the election occurs on a given day of the week, then the 25 days, I believe, put the due date for the petitions on a Thursday evening. Is that correct?
That's about right. Yeah.
And so, so this is not adding an even number of weeks, so it won't be on a Thursday evening, and I think it might be on a Sunday evening if we're at 65 days. I'd have to. Might be a Saturday evening. I can't. Can you do that calculation, Councilmember Lingua? Or have you considered that, Ms. Zola and Ms. Kelly?
No, we were working backwards from the day of elections and trying to keep it outside of specific days of the week because the calendar, the number of days and things change depending on, whether there's a leap year and things like that. So we were just trying to keep it broad.
If I may, what we had suggested at some point, and I don't have, unfortunately, my stuff is split. At one point, what we had suggested was the first of the month, 2 months before the election. So in this case, it would be March 1st. And people who are better at math than I am can see if that works out to 65 days. I think that maybe the reason we settled on the words 65 days is that we can adjust, it will be codified at that point. And then we can say, well, 65 days is fine. And in this case, it's Sunday, March 1st or whatever. And then we can make arrangements to be there if it's necessary for us to do that, or we could do it by a Dropbox. There's all kinds of ways that we can work with this. The main reason for this is to give candidates the time that they need to reach out to the voters. That's the first goal. The secondary goal is that we would like to be able to ensure that the work that we do is completed accurately.
Certainly, and I understand all those goals. I just think we might want to ooch the 65 one way or another just to choose a good day of the week for having the petitions too.
Well, how about a Monday more than 65 days before the election?
Or a Thursday, 65 days.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well,
65 days plus a Thursday. I don't, however you want to.
May I offer a suggestion?
Certainly.
First Thursday of March.
We could look that up.
Sure.
As long as it's 65 days.
I think that it's, well, some years it'll be probably more than 65 days, and others it's going to be under. 65 is falling on a Sunday. March 1st of this year of coming up would be 66.
Is a Sunday, yeah.
Right. The second is a Sunday.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
you're talking 4 days, so that would put you at 61 days. Is that still time? Or if you wanted to make it the first Wednesday of the month, you could do that too.
I think
that's definitely going to put you, that's definitely going to put you on some months. That's definitely going to put you over 65 days on some occasions. On other, it's going to be something like where it would be like this coming year, it would be about approximately 62 days.
So I think we can discuss this. I mean, this is just, ooching one way or another by a couple of days, but I think it probably is a good idea. And perhaps a question that I can ask our members of the Board of Elections who are here is how would it help you to process them? Is it better to get them on a Thursday and have the weekend to process them, or is it better to get them on a Monday or a Tuesday? So we can do one or the other. I would think we probably don't want to do it on a Friday afternoon, have it be then, but I think that we could do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just what would help out the Board of Elections, and then we can figure out the number of days to make that line up. So,
what's the busiest day for town business walking through Town Hall? Do you know? I know this is an unfair question because Town Hall hasn't been open.
Well, if I may, we actually tracked our walk-in customers. So before the renovation project, the average is about 1.5 visitors to town hall per day. That includes deliveries.
Okay, so this is not going to be a burden.
No.
No. Okay. All right.
So I would sort of suggest if it doesn't matter to the board, and the board can definitely, think about this and weigh in. We have plenty of time before this is going to be done. And we can adjust the number of days. But since town meetings occur on Mondays and then sometimes get ooched over to Tuesdays, then I would suggest either a Wednesday or a Thursday for having these due.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna run the next couple of decades worth of elections and see what that turns into, and see if anything, pushes it back into February or something funny like that. So,
Or the other direction. My birthday is within 8 days of the beginning of November. And so sometimes my birthday is the second Tuesday of the month. And I am very aware of how much that swing happens because of that. And so it can switch 7 days one way or the other.
mm-hmm.
So,
Sure.
So to me, it makes more sense to say it's the Wednesday before the 65th day or something like that, rather than the first Wednesday or
Right, but if it's the Wednesday before the 65th day, then we can figure out, how many days that is and just wire that number in.
But then the next.
Because the election is always on a Monday, so we can make it land on a Wednesday,
Okay.
just by specifying the number of days.
Okay.
So like I said, I'll run, the next 20 elections and see what happens.
But that'll save me from the paper and pencil method, Mr. Mayor. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add one thing, the legislative timeline is relatively tight for the charter amendment component because there are so many steps in the process. Can staff work with the town attorney to draft the legislation now for introduction next week, and the discussion can continue as we move through the legislative process?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I would think that we could amend the charter amendment to adjust the number of days, at various points during the process. So I don't think that that's a big deal. You can check that with the town attorney when you're speaking with him to make sure that we can make that adjustment later in the process.
Certainly, thank you.
Okay, that's my, sorry to, have that be a big discussion, but it just seems that having the right day of the week be when it's due is probably a good idea. And so thought about that. Okay, if there's no more discussion, then we will have proposed legislation in front of us next week to do this. So any additional council or public comments on this? Okay. Thank you very much to Ms. Ola and Ms. Kelly for coming and speaking to us and for pushing this legislation forward. Appreciate it.
Thanks for letting us visit. Thank
Yeah,
you,
of course.
Jessica.
Our pleasure.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hazard just.
Okay, moving on work session discussion items. The next item is requested street closures for community events.
Director Barnes, if you can walk us through these two items.
Certainly. Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. Staff are seeking input from the mayor and council regarding 2 requested street closures for October the 26th. It's a little unusual that we have 2 for one date. That sounds like a really good date for a lot of things. The first request that we received is from Mr. J.R. Smith, who's with us today. He is requesting, he lives on Oliver Street. He's requesting that 46th Street from Oliver Street to Riverdale Road, so a very small small internal portion of the roadway be closed from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a community yard sale. This event is a pretty small event, so no tents or food will be sold, and a special event permit is not required from the county. There will be no amplified music during the event. Mr. Smith reports that he has talked with his neighbors. So on 46th Avenue, there are 4 driveways that empty onto 46. One of them is Mr. Smith's. The 3 others have given permission to close the roadway. They support the event and they plan on being a part of the event. Chief Turner has reviewed the request and supports the this limited street closure at this time. So that is request number 1. I would like to ask if Mr. Smith would like to add anything. If I missed any of the details of his event, please add them.
No, Jessica, you did a fine job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then if it pleases the council, we'll move on to request number 2 for the 26th. This is also, this is with the Riverdale Park Station Fall Block Party. So residents and K-Fritz and the town are now partnering on this event. Staff are requesting that Van Buren Street between 45th Street and 47th Street be closed on Saturday, October 26th, between the times of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. for the Riverdale Park Station Fall Block Party. This is the event that Councilman Yang has spoken so highly of. It is scheduled, the event itself is scheduled from 12 noon to 5 p.m. It'll include music and food and arts and games and vendors. It sounds like a wonderful time. A special event permit is in process with Prince George's County. Chief Turner has reviewed the street closure and is supportive of it at this time. The event organizers also report that the businesses in Riverdale Park Station, the Homeowners Association, and residents of the Pilot House have been notified of the proposed street closure. The event organizers are working on a plan to have flaggers assist with traffic control during the event. So that is everything. The event is evolving, so details are being finalized. But from at this point in time, the street closure request is what's being requested for this specific event. So 2 requests, one maybe smaller and one quite large, both on October the 26th, which seems like a great day in October for both of these events. And the council is just seeking, or the staff are seeking input from the council on anything they'd like to see or any tweaks with these street closure requests.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Council, questions, comments, thoughts?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Barnes, are any of these details that still need to be worked out? I take it none of them are really deal breakers.
Not at all. Specifically as it relates to the Fall Fest, the Homeowners Association and a group of residents has really led with the planning. So town staff are just supporting those efforts and helping them with some of the minor details that we're a little bit more familiar with when it comes to large public events.
Okay, I mean, if there's nothing if it's nothing that needs to get worked out, that's like if it can't be met, it's just going to put the kibosh on everything. Okay.
I would say this, sir.
Yeah.
We met, Jessica and I met with Councilmember Yang, and who's been very involved in the planning of this. I have no concerns that would put the kibosh on this, if you will.
Okay.
There's details to work out, as there is with every event, and I think that's where we are.
Okay, great.
Any additional Councilmember Yang, go ahead.
Just wanted to thank town staff for their support and sort of helping think through an event like this and willing to partner to bring it to reality. Fully aware that this is the first of its kind, definitely in this community and maybe even in the town for a long period of time. And so, the purpose behind the street closure being from essentially the Bear to the bridge is to allow for a car-free environment so folks can walk around pretty freely in the during the event. So that is sort of the purpose behind it, and feel confident in terms of being able to still allow for traffic to get in and out of the community while still keeping residents safe by primarily moving people towards Woodbury Street, which is sort of north of what we see right here on the map.
Yeah, can I ask a sort of detailed question about that? So 47th is one way north. And so how will traffic that is going from west to east navigate through there with both branches of Van Buren closed?
So there would have to be on the corner of Rhode Island Avenue and Van Buren Street,
Mhm.
flaggers there. So that's the people would have to be able to cross Van Buren on Rhode Island Avenue and then detour actually south to I think it's Underwood.
Okay.
And then come up to 47th.
Okay, very good. I presume you have activities in the village
Yes.
square there, and that's why
Yeah.
you want the closures. Understood. Okay.
Yep.
Any additional council or public questions or comments on these street closures?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Foe, go ahead.
I think these are both very unique situations, and I'm excited to attend both of them. I thank both anybody involved in bringing these forward. Thank you, council member.
Okay. Any additional comments? Okay, let's move on the agenda. Next item is council discussion on town seal design.
Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. This is simply another opportunity for the mayor and council to discuss and provide direction to staff on the next steps related to the redesign of the town seal. On September the 9th, we had a great presentation from the Town Seal Design Committee, Neighborhood Design Center, and the artist. So they provided a lot of detail about the process that they went through to get to the proposed town seal. At that meeting, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity for the mayor and council to really discuss it in greater detail and make sure that there's great support for this, and then to determine what the next steps would be. So staff would, if the mayor and council are supportive of the proposed design, staff would create and draft a resolution that would move this process forward. But we're seeking direction tonight from the mayor and council regarding next steps.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Council? Are we ready to move forward with the design?
I think so.
Likewise.
I agree.
I heard half the council there. Other half is okay with that?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I want it on a sweatshirt.
I think one of the things we need to consider is introduction and timeline, working it into various ways it's going to be used, be it cards, signage outside of town hall, emblem inside the main council chambers, and any other number of items upon which we affix a town seal. So, and because this, we rolled out over time, but I don't see this happening all at once, unless there's time to get all such items prepared and made and then done that way.
Is there, with that in mind, is there a staff preference for for a time of adoption? And can we have a delay between adopting it and it becoming official to allow time for production of such items or any items?
I would say, Mr. Mayor, that the council would move forward with the establishment of the town common seal in the legislation, and then we will have a phased-in rollout. Everything from emblems on uniforms that currently have the town seal, police officers' badges of authority. All these things will have to be thought out and planned. I would anticipate that you would have an implementation that will span fiscal years. I'm not sure off the top of my head how much remains in this budget, but we are going to have to make sure that we have budgeted for all the changes. So it will take, I would think, at least 8 months for us to complete an update.
Okay, that sounds reasonable that we can just move as at our own speed, and the implementation will also move at its own speed after the adoption.
I'm
Councilmember
in favor
Andy
for it
Jackson?
as well. Yeah, I'm in favor for it as well.
Okay.
So essentially what we'd be looking, based on what I'm hearing, being that we're right now, beginning of October, were we to go forward with formal adoption this coming Monday, we could look at having, say, implementation coming around the beginning of the next fiscal year.
That or just into the next fiscal year, depending on budgeting. And if the council has a preference for priorities of the order of things, if you will. So, for example, you had mentioned, sir, having a new seal behind the new dais. If that's a priority, then we would first work towards having that complete before we're putting things on uniforms and things of that nature.
I would think that would come first. That also any town documents, anything of that nature, that would be priority. I mean, having a town seal behind a dais is more like icing on the cake than anything. I think more in regards to what staff is wearing, that would be appropriate for the town seal to be on. Things of that nature that are for the conduct of everyday business for the town would be items that come first.
Very good. And that's something we'll follow then, sir.
Okay.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're ready to do it. So if we could have a resolution next Monday, then let's go ahead and do it.
And Mr. Mayor, just making sure everyone's on the same page, the resolution that Director Barnes and I discussed will lay out maybe a little longer resolution. It will lay out how we got here and what the imagery represents. So there is an official record. So it's long after we are all gone, folks will be able to look back and say, why is the town common seal what it is? And
I think that's a good idea.
so, yes.
Given the many mysteries of the current seal, then I think having, although it's always fun to have a little mystery.
No,
So maybe there's something hidden in the petals of the rose that is an interesting shape, and people can wonder about that.
Yes, or the number of kernels of corn.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking an alphanumeric assignment of the colors within the wings of the butterfly spell out a special message. Okay, enough.
Okay,
right.
Very good. So is there any public comment on that discussion? Are there any members of the public still in attendance? I don't think so. Okay, let's move on to discussion item 5, fiscal year 2025 revenue update.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Mayor, is the audio?
Mr. Jones, we're not able to hear you. Mr. Jones?
He's turning his audio on and off, and you still can't hear him.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jones, can you hear us? Yes.
Might I suggest, is someone else going to be briefing us on the Farmers Market Dollars program?
Yes.
So I would suggest we move forward to that, and Mr. Jones can log out and log back in, and hopefully his audio will come online at that time.
He just made a comment. That's what he's doing, sir.
Very good. Okay, so Farmers Market Dollars program.
Mr. Charlton?
Yes, good evening, council.
We can barely hear you, sir.
Yeah, just speak up a little bit more. Can you hear me now?
That's good.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and any members of the public watching on this live streams. I was going to suggest that if we're still having audio issues with Mr. Jones, that he might be able to have better luck calling in using the call-in number. So let me switch over to the Farmers Market Dollars discussion here. All right, this evening, the staff wanted to update the mayor and council on the status of the Farmers Market Dollars program. The Farmers Market Dollars program is running out of funding. We had funded through the end of the calendar year 2024, using in part the revenue replacement from the ARPA funds that the mayor had mentioned earlier. Currently, the program has 250 active participants or households that are active participants in the program. And in the last 12 months, the program has spent more than $300,000 to distribute to households in need. There are a few grant programs that staff have been able to research and find that might be able to help provide additional funding in the future. Those being the Maryland Emergency Food Program, which is administered by the Maryland Department of Human Services, and the Neighbor Impact Grant, which is administered by the Maryland Food Bank. These opportunities may require the assistance of a nonprofit. Some of the grants require a nonprofit be the applicant. Ideally, the Riverdale Park Farmers Market Inc. would be able to assist with this, but it is our understanding that the Riverdale Park Farmers Market Inc. is now a for-profit business. The Farmers Market Dollars program is currently set to expire, like I mentioned before, at the end of December 2024. But with the current funding, the staff have calculated that we would be able to extend for an additional 2.5 months if modifications are made to the amount distributed to the households. So if we decrease the amount from $25 to $15 in November and then down again to $10 in December, and if we maintain those $10 levels, we'd be able to extend the program for an additional 2.5 months, as I mentioned before. So staff are seeking input and it's ideas from the mayor and council on this and any other questions about the Riverdale Park Farmers Market Dollars program.
Thank you, Director Shelton. Councilmember Smith, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Recognizing that we've all, or for the most part, or at least in principle, committed to supporting another or an additional program out of the undesignated social concerns line item. I'm wondering if a portion of that can be used to maintain level of benefits, or if I'm just basically trying to find a way to not have to reduce benefits, because I think what we do is very great for a town our size, but I think we would all recognize that if you're trying to feed a family, a drop in the bucket. So that's the first thing that comes to mind is undesignated social concerns. And again, I know we were all just enthusiastic about another very worthy program. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there are alternate sources of funding that we could pull into this to avoid cutting the benefit level, even if temporarily so.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
My short answer is there's not from the town's funds. So I believe that the total amount in the social concerns budget, and that includes things that are already programmed, is about $25,000. That's all of our programs. Jessica, or now I don't see you on the call. Are you there, Ms. Barnes? Yes.
I'm here.
Sorry, all the faces just switched around on me. Do you recall how much is in undesignated?
I do. It's $21,500 this year.
Okay. And so that's what you have for all undesignated concerns for the year, is 21,000. The farmers
That's about a
market,
month of farmers market dollars.
that's
Slightly.
what I was just going to say. The farmers market dollars, it ranges from the low 20s to the high 20s, depending on utilization. Is that correct, Mr. Chelton?
That's correct, yes.
So the town does not, within the town finances, have monies that we can move to that without reducing monies otherwhere in other places.
Have we reached out to county council or our Annapolis delegation? I know they sometimes have similar sort of community impact funds. I'm what I'm doing here is trying to think of other ways to fund this because I don't want to cut it. And I know you guys have likely been thinking about this longer than I have and have explored those opportunities because I know that's just what you guys do. I just if reducing the benefit amount to be able to help more people for longer is what we need to do, I certainly support that. But I that hurts my heart to have to cut this, and I recognize that's why we ask for these jobs, is to be the ones that have to make tough choices like that. But if there's any way, if there's something on the political side that we could be reaching out to other elected delegations, I'm happy to make those calls, send those emails, have those coffees. Yeah, if staff can, I know you guys are very creative. If there's anything else on the table, so to speak, that we could reach for, I'm happy to support those efforts. But like I say, if this is sort of what we're down to, is help the most people for the longest, even if it's a lower amount, I certainly understand that.
And that's where we are from a staff perspective. If the mayor and council have the ability to reach other elected officials that may have input or identify funding sources, we certainly will work with whatever information is returned to us. I want to make sure that we're clear that the program was scheduled to expire completely at the end of this calendar year. Reducing the benefit in November, December will only get us into the start of calendar 25. And then as of now, the program will end in early 25. We've identified these sources, and right now we're not eligible to apply. Our current vendor is not eligible to apply. Is that correct, Mr. Chelton?
That's correct, yes.
So even if we overcome that hurdle, then we have to address the issue of whatever their funding cycle is. So I would fully anticipate that the best case scenario is that the program would expire or be paused, whatever terminology we want to use, in early 25. And then pending the influx of funds from an external source, then the program could be revived.
Understood, and I certainly appreciate staff's legwork on trying to find alternative funding sources, and in the absence of that, do what we can. I would just ask that we give participants as much heads up, early notice as possible to plan for this, because
Absolutely.
I know it's not something any of us want to do, but it's reducing nutrition assistance for November and December is about the worst time of year to do it. And I know I'm not saying anything that you guys haven't talked about in staff meetings, and that we're all on the same page here. It's just one of those tough decisions.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, sir. When staff proposed this program, and I believe it was the third week of March of 2020, we created this along with many other programs on the fly. And this program, like all the other programs that the mayor and council approved, were outward facing. And that's something that's unique to Riverdale Park. During the pandemic, there was a constant focus on the community. And but the needs still exist. And so we will continue to search out alternative funding sources. And we're also I'll add this. I'm not prepared to get into detail, but we're exploring options where at some point perhaps the town would create an entity that would be eligible to apply for grants as well.
Oh, it's as if you're reading my text messages to council member Foe and which are foiable if anybody wants to read them as well. But it was essentially exactly what the town manager just said.
Yes, so that's something that we're having staff discussions about, and if we get to the point of viability, then we would bring that forward to the council for a public discussion.
I would certainly support the idea of a TRP foundation that we could administer these programs for, and also fundraise for in our own time as representatives of our constituencies throughout the year. I think that would be great. Understand that it's not something we can do overnight and keep this program going. And just generally all of the programs you're talking about, Mr. Town Manager, that you and the staff have spun up on the fly and kept running for several years with finite resources. It's definitely been a huge help to the community. As you said, the need still exists though. Yeah, let's continue this discussion and think about ways we can get creative and do more of this kind of stuff going forward.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Inyang.
Yeah, a lot that just been said is things that were top of mind for me. I know the timing is not ideal. It was always a big program, and it did a lot of good. And I think, letting folks know now, it would almost be, sooner rather than later. And I think any opportunity we can to sort of, trickle it out, so at least it maybe, it's not a, you have it 1 week and then it's gone. Even if it's sort of reduced over time, that would be helpful to try to extend it as much as possible. I'm very much concerned about the long-term viability, and just sort of like having every opportunity that we have to try and find funding sources for this. And so if the fact that not being a not-for-profit is limiting in a sense is definitely something that I think, in order to when this unfortunately is sunset for a period of time, that I think we sort of have to reevaluate what it looks like moving forward to give it the greatest, opportunity for success. I'm reading this right, like $300,000 a year in terms of like what it costs to sort of sustain this program. Like, when we increased taxes, it was slightly less than that amount in terms of like what the tax increase. So this is a big part of the budget for just this one program. So for us to sort of take it on completely would be, order of magnitude bigger than sort of what we're doing now. And so that's super important that we find every available opportunity. And if the town has an opportunity to create an entity that can sort of like easily distribute this and get money in fundraisers, as been mentioned, I think that would definitely be in support of that. The last thing that I would just think of is, we sort of knew these days were coming, the ARPA funds and a lot of the programming that were sort of created. It might be helpful to, have a list if there are other programs that will also be sort of impacted to start thinking about messaging and even getting the word out and even letting the council, know so we can help to get ahead of some of the conversations that are going to unfortunately happen to try to create a soft landing, if at all possible, for any type of changes, because these were all, they didn't exist before. We didn't know we need them until we got them, and then people became sort of like relying on them and the positive benefits that they create. And so losing them is going to be a huge change in terms of the way a lot of folks operate in our community.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Foe.
Thank you. A couple of Thursdays ago, I was walking over the tracks with Mara and Levon, and we were trying to pick up some peaches or something like that. And it was just one of those nights where the farmers market was buzzing and the true demographic of Riverdale Park is present. And you see somebody carrying beans over their shoulder, and it really has been such an enlightening tool that has been utilized in these times. And I said to Mara, this is one of the best things that I'll ever be a part of, is the injection of life that we've been able to put into our community during these times. It's always represented on Thursday nights over there. And I just wanted to take this time to, whatever we can do, let's try and do. Always and forever. But I just want to say thank you to town staff for coming up with this. It has truly been so beneficial. And again, like I said, this is just, I am so proud to have been a part of this. And I hope to be a part of a fight moving forward, so we can continue to offer our residents local agriculture at a reduced cost, because that's just awesome politics. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a program we've had going on now for 4.5 years. It's been a great program. And I appreciate Mr. Shelton trying to find ways to extend it. I had the same feeling as my colleague from the First Ward about reducing what would be available. But if that's a choice to be able to extend it, or else having it end right at the end of the year, that's a hard choice to make. In terms of extending it, and if we're looking at an issue of like working with a nonprofit entity, has there been any consideration of reaching out to CCAR CDC to see if they would want to be a partner in this, in both operations and helping to identify funding?
If I could ask a clarifying question.
Sure.
Operations of the farmers market or the farmers market dollar program?
Well, to help with the operation of the distribution of the dollar program.
Yeah, it's not labor intensive.
Right.
We've automated everything. internally, and so it's easier for the town staff to administer. In terms of looking for others to apply for funds in the short term, that's something that that staff are discussing, whether or not someone else can be an applicant. Long term, though, I think the council or the town needs to look at whether or not there is some sort of a TRP foundation for this and for other things that that the town may need to be an eligible applicant for grants or other fundraising. So I would encourage us to look more broadly in the long term, but in the short term, we are discussing among staff whether or not there could be a nonprofit that could act as an applicant or a pass through to the town.
Well, it would seem that we have that already with CCAR CDC, don't we?
That I don't know, sir. That would be a discussion with Ms. Parker and the board, and staff haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. All right.
Councilmember Foe, you had your hand up. Did you decide not to?
No, I left it up.
Okay, very good. So the one thing I wanted to say was when the town manager and I were discussing ways we might stretch out the program. The thing that I thought is that during the holiday season, during November and December, there's typically a lot of resources to provide nutrition assistance to people. So the town has distributed Thanksgiving baskets and baskets towards the end of the year, the higher holidays, and when January rolls around, then it's cold and it's dark, and there's not so many resources. And I thought that trying to stretch it out to cover those first few months of the next year would be a good idea. And town manager, I discussed it and brought it before you to let you know. So that's the motivation here. And the other thing I'll say is that 300,000 a year is a lot of money. I mean, that would be a very nice bond bill. If we could, reliably get $300,000 a year out of the state, then that would be something we would consider a major success. So it's not going to be easy to find that, but we should try, and we need to get all the tools in place for getting as much of that as we can. And even if we can't get that, we might be able to get half that and continue having the lower level support indefinitely. So let's keep the discussion going. Any additional discussion on this topic? Okay.
If I may just ask for clarity, Mr. Mayor. So there's general support for a modification to the program to reduce the weekly benefit in November, December to carry this forward into the new year. Okay.
Lots of nodding heads.
Yep. I just wanted to make sure that staff have a clear understanding, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's dodge back to fiscal year 2025 revenue update.
Mr. Jones.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, but you're a little bit faint. If you can perhaps speak up.
What about now?
That's a little better. Yes.
All right, thank you. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's revenue reports cover the current fiscal year from the start of the beginning of the fiscal year, July, up to September 27th, which was Friday. And then we compare the previous 3 years just to give us some a good baseline for where we are. So we have 5 major categories for revenue. The first being local taxes. Second, license and permits, administrative fees, fines and forfeitures, and lastly, community safety programs. So for local taxes, we have a total revenue amount of 863,131. The previous fiscal year was at 719,000, 478,000 for fiscal year 2023. And fiscal year 2022, we had an amount of 1,016,327. So for local taxes, real estate taxes being billed out by Prince George's County, that line item does tend to fluctuate. Sometimes, like for instance, the previous year and the year before that, we didn't receive as much of the real estate tax revenue as we did in fiscal year 2022, but it looks like we've received a bit more up to this point for the current fiscal year. So we will see some fluctuation there at this point in the fiscal year. We typically receive the majority of our real estate tax revenue in the months of October and November. Next major category that we have is licenses and permits. The total for fiscal year 2025 is 190,000. For fiscal year 2024, that total was 150,000. 2023, 181,000, and then fiscal year 2022, 152,000. The major number for the current fiscal year, if you look, is at the multifamily rental licenses. That figures at 144,680. The next category is administrative fees, which includes abatement charges and municipal infractions. We have a total of $300 at this point in the fiscal year. Fiscal year 2024, we did have more infractions, and then in 2023, we had a figure that totaled 14,000, so a bit more in fiscal year 2023. 2022, just 600, which is very similar to the current fiscal year that we are in now. The next major category is fines and forfeitures. This includes police reports, vehicle impounds, and parking citations. With the new implementation of the parking citations that we have for the current fiscal year, that number has increased. If you notice, we are currently at 6,139 for parking citations. Fiscal year 24, 23, and 22, we hadn't even reached 1,000. So we have increased our parking citations since the implementation of the new parking software. And then the last category is community safety programs. This is Safe Speeds for Students. The total there is 186,000. 2024, we had a total of 109,000. 2023, 112,000, and 2022, 154,000. So speed camera is up in comparison to fiscal year 2024 and 2023. And that puts us at a total for fiscal year 2025. Our revenue is at 1,255,274. Fiscal year 2024, that figure was 990,000. 2023, 798,000. And then fiscal year 2022, we were at 1,331,000. So overall, with where we see revenue at, I'd say that we are performing at a rate that is consistent with where we've been in relation to the budget. So nothing is very alarming at this point. We're in a good place for revenue. And yeah, that concludes the revenue report for mid-September fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
I'm wondering, I appreciate, thank you, Mr. Jones, and appreciate the year-over-year numbers. I'm wondering if for the speed camera revenue, if we are seeing any change in that month over month. And if those figures, if we don't have those in front of us right now, I'm happy to take those over email in a follow-up.
Sure, yeah. So the way that the speed cameras work is the figure that you see there is actually for the month of July because we're 2 months behind. That's actually, yeah, that's the first fiscal year 2025 figure that we've gotten. But yeah, I'd be happy to follow up with you and give you any information about where we've been in previous months.
And when did I know we expanded that program? Did that begin at the start of the fiscal year?
Chief Turner.
Or rather, is July the first month of data overall that we have, and then we're waiting for more of that?
Chief Turner, can you weigh in on when those cameras switched to the 24/7 versus Monday through Friday?
Sure, John. All locations except for East West Highway started on July the 1st. We waited approximately 3 weeks for some permits for State Highway before East West Highway went live.
Gotcha. So this is the first month of data, and we'll be for month over month. We'll have to look from this number forward.
Correct.
Yes. Understood. Thank you very much.
And the July 1st was when we started issuing tickets that people had to pay, or were those a period of warning tickets in there?
No, that's when people had to start to pay. There was no warning period.
Okay, thank you. Any additional council questions on the revenue report?
Mr. Mayor, sorry, just one more on that. Just to sort of confirm my understanding, month to month on the speed camera revenue, I think that would be informative information, but really to understand the impacts, we would have to compare like FY25 July to FY26 July, so that the best data on that is a year out. Would you agree with that? So like July, people may not be driving the same amount as August. So August FY25 compared against July FY25 might not be the best comparison versus waiting a year and having July FY25 versus July FY26. Does that make my
I
correctly?
understand. If I can answer this, it depends on what you're trying to look at. So you're right that every month is unique in the way it is. So in late August, then a new crop of students shows up at the University of Maryland and have to learn where the speed cameras are, and then various other things happen and at other times during the year that impact. So during late December and January, there are fewer students around, and so you tend to have more. You also tend to have weather that slows people down a little bit during the winter sometimes. So yeah, it does vary, and I would suggest that if you're trying to see what the sort of impact of going to 24-hour at most locations would be, then it would be month over month comparing between years. But I'll just say that there are other things that are impacting it. So the fact that the Purple Line project will be shutting down at the corner of East West and Kenilworth, that will be wrapping up hopefully this month. That means that we might see a bump up. Every year is unique.
Sure.
And there's some trends from for every month across years, but every year is unique.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make sure we're keeping an eye on that, taking all of those factors into consideration. I think comparing August over July is informative. I think it's more informative to compare July this year to July next year and take into considerations the fluctuations between years. As you know, I have concerns about the effectiveness of this program. I also recognize that the best thing for the town and the safety of our community would be for us to find out that my concerns are unfounded and I was wrong about it, and I would love for that to be the case. But I just want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on those things. And it sounds like We are, and this is the first month of data that we don't really have much to compare it to. So look forward to working with our staff and everybody to keep an eye on that.
Right, and the what I would think you would want to do is look at number of violations, and violations, and I would actually, if I were slicing and dicing the data and it was all available, then I would suggest that looking at the ones in the new enforcement hours, separately from the ones in the traditional enforcement hours, that might be informative as well.
Yeah, agree. Let's keep an eye on it. And like I said, I'm actively rooting to be wrong on this. I don't think I will be, but I hope I am, and that this program is making our community safer.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the numbers from the safe speed for students, those are only from the fixed cameras that are sort of placed throughout town, or are there other sort of like speed camera mechanisms, or like speeding tickets that are given that does that feed into these numbers as well?
Chief? No, that's only from the automated cameras. We don't receive revenue from the state from citations issued by officers.
Chief, does that include that remote camera that's tied into the fixed camera?
Correct. It does.
So it's all from those select locations.
Correct.
Because even the mobile camera is tied into the fixed camera.
Exactly. And it's only been used on East West Highway.
Okay. That's helpful to know. And so I guess maybe it's too early. We wouldn't be able to know the difference of like the remote camera on East West Highway versus like the level of impact that is having on the program. Is it like, increasing the numbers because people are probably speeding before they get to where they know the speed camera is, and therefore maybe getting tickets as a result?
Sort of. So if you continue to speed through the mobile camera and go into the fixed camera, you only receive one citation. So it just discounts the mobile camera. So it's a little hard to tell, right? So if it doesn't issue 2 citations, so it discounts one of those, so we wouldn't know.
Got it. But it probably would catch a person who knows where the fixed camera is and maybe doesn't know where the mobile camera is, and so there's a chance that you can get a ticket that you wouldn't have normally because a person who may think they know where the camera is, but you're not going to get 2 tickets for the same driving violation. All right, thank you. That's super helpful.
Councilmember Smith.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the scenario raised by my colleague from Ward 4 just now, is the town still paying 2 lookup fees for that situation?
No, it's only when a citation is issued or when not 2 events are captured. If there's 2 citations, only 1 event is captured.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments on the revenue update?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Callan, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask about the school buses. When they are...
So you can bring that up under unfinished business? Or is this about speed cameras with school buses, or what's the?
Yeah, they all are the same camera. They are the same camera.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. If Mr. Town Manager, if staff could answer the question about school buses getting speed camera citations.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't think that's the question, sir. If I can ask Councilmember Cologne to clarify.
You know, what I'm trying to say, okay, hence the school buses, they have camera. They'll have speed camera, they'll have light camera. So are all this revenue going to one place or they are separated?
So the county school buses are equipped with cameras to capture folks that are disregarding the school bus stop
Yes.
lights and that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
That is run by the county. That is not a town automated enforcement program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for catching that. I apologize, Councilmember Callan, for not understanding your question. Any additional comments or questions on the fiscal 25 revenue update? Okay, we already discussed the farmers market dollars, so we can move on to town code changes, chapter 72.
Director Shelton.
Yes, good evening. Oops, wrong one. There we go. All right, good evening again, Mayor and Council. This next item is a bit of housekeeping. The county changed their zoning ordinance, and some of the language involved in that county zoning ordinance change affects chapter 72 of the town code. Chapter 272 of the town code establishes the structure and process for the Riverdale Park Mixed Use Town Center Local Design Review Committee. So some of the changes that need to be made to chapter 72 include updating the language to specify that this is now the Legacy Mixed Use Town Center instead of just stating that this is the mixed use town center. We have also taken a moment to increase some specificity on some of the items there in chapter 72. Specifically, there's a line that mentions criteria for one of the committee members, and that we've just specified a little bit more clearly that that committee member needs to have a business or property that is within the Legacy Mixed Use Town Center area. We've also taken this time to update the language discussing the appointment process, and we emphasize that the planning board makes the final appointment after council approval. And lastly, we more explicitly aligned the replacement process with the selection process during the vacancy discussion at the chapter 72 of the town code. Again, this is a bit of a housekeeping, but if there are any questions about the proposed revisions to chapter 72, I'd be happy to answer them. And after we've come to a conclusion, I'll work with the town attorney, Fred Sussman, to make sure that we make these official through an ordinance. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilmember Inyang.
I appreciate the review and the specification for the what was it, a person needing to have a business or property within the actual Legacy Mixed Use Town Center as part of membership. The question I had was around other parts of membership on there. I know I talked to the councilman from Ward 1 in terms of like council representation on the committee. Is that also sort of like written in stone in terms of the ordinance as well?
So we have a red line version, if you will, for the proposed changes here, and so it does outline a little bit of what currently exists. So there's 7 committee members, 2 municipal government representatives, 2 residents, and 2 business and or property owners, and at least and the 7th member with certain technical design expertise in a related field. It does appear as though 2 municipal government representatives is included there as the first committee membership criteria.
Okay, good. So it gives flexibility in terms of like who those representatives are.
Yes,
Okay.
it appears so. Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Just to put something on the radar to maybe be mindful of for future councils, if any of us are still around for those. I think some of what my colleague from Ward 4 and I discussed was that traditionally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, because you've been on this committee a lot longer than I, those two slots are have been represented by the mayor and the council member for Ward 1, as it was explained to me originally, because that's where the MUTC zone was. Since redistricting, we now have 2 wards that have MUTC in them. Council member Yang has been gracious enough to allow me to continue to handle the duties of the MUTC zone and keep him briefed of the minutes of those meetings, which I'm happy to do. But I think it's important that we consider in future councils that that may be something that needs to be hashed out between wards 1 and 4, or whatever the wards may be numbered. Basically just putting on the radar that this has been determined previously, because MUTC was in Ward 1 completely, and it is not anymore.
So I'll just mention that for many years, the 2 municipal representatives were the representative from Ward 2 and the representative from Ward 1.
I heard that representative from Ward 2 was a pistol.
Well, that's a tradition that representatives from Ward 2 are pistols. So yeah, so there's the municipal representatives it's not that it's tied to being mayor. Previous Mayor Archer was not I wouldn't say he's not interested as a bad thing, but it was not his cup of tea. That was not his the thing he was most interested in.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments on this item? This pretty much looks like a housekeeping item that we need to align our code with the county's zoning ordinance, and so looks pretty straightforward. And appreciate staff for noting that we needed to do this and catching us up. Any additional discussion? Okay, that brings us to minutes. As I say every month, it's good to review the minutes, because what is written in there that you said is going to go down in history, and so you better make sure that it was captured correctly, or otherwise comments about the representative from the 2nd ward being 95 years old and might be amended to 85, and that would be missed in the history books. So please review. Unless there's any discussion of the minutes, then move on to unfinished business. Are there any items of unfinished business? Looks awfully quiet. Are there any items of new business? Okay, we are to the end of the agenda, and it's just barely before 10:30. So thank you all for an exciting and interesting and productive set of meetings. And see you all next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.